Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into one of the most bizarre and honestly hilarious chapters in all of natural history. I want you to picture a scene, okay? It's 15,000 years ago. You're a hunter-gatherer somewhere out in Eurasia. Your daily routine is basically wake up, try not to die, find some food, try not to die again, and go to sleep. Wash, rinse, repeat, every single day. But one night, you're sitting around your campfire out in the middle of absolute nowhere, and you hear a rustling in the dark, just beyond the light. You freeze, and then a pair of yellow eyes blinks right at you from the shadows. Now, normally, most animals at this point would either run away or, well, try to eat your face. But this one doesn't. It just sits there, watching you. And something about it makes you decide, you know what? I'm not going to throw my spear. That exact moment, that is probably where the entire story of dogs begins.
It really is a wild question to ask, isn't it? How exactly did an apex predator become this creature that sleeps on your pillow and cries when you leave the room for 30 seconds? Because remember, biologically speaking, dogs aren't just some separate species that naturally existed in the wild. No way. Every single dog, from the most terrifying German Shepherd to the embarrassingly small Chihuahua, is a domesticated subspecies of the gray wolf, Canis lupus familiaris. And the story of how that happened, thousands of years before we even figured out farming or domesticated horses, is completely chaotic and honestly, completely misunderstood.
Which brings us to Section 1, the domestication myth. Let's look at the facts versus the fiction here.
So scientists estimate dogs were domesticated somewhere between 15,000 and 40,000 years ago, but I was actually shocked to learn it definitely did not happen the way we see it in the movies. You know, the classic romantic myth, right? A brave prehistoric human finds a cute little litter of wolf pups, takes them home, raises them, and trains them to be these loyal hunting companions. It's heartwarming for sure, but it's completely biologically impossible. Wildlife sanctuaries and zoos have actually known this for centuries. Adult wolves are completely undomesticable by force. You can raise a wolf pup from birth with all the love and warmth in the world, and it will still fundamentally be a dangerous wild animal with wild instincts. So if we didn't intentionally tame them, what the heck actually happened? Well, the leading scientific theory is that wolves actually domesticated themselves. They chose us, and they did it primarily for our highly reliable Stone Age garbage. Moving on to Section 2, Survival of the Friendliest, and the concept of self-taming wolves. Think about it like this. As ancient humans got better at hunting, we started generating a lot of consistent, discarded food scraps. For a hungry, opportunistic scavenging wolf, finding a human cap was basically the equivalent of a Michelin star restaurant opening up right in their neighborhood. And this brilliantly illustrates just how accidental this whole process was. The big, dominant, super aggressive wolves? Yeah, they wanted absolutely nothing to do with humans. But the ones that edged a little closer to the fires, those were the wolves that were slightly less afraid, maybe a bit more curious, and just generally calmer around these terrifying fire-wielding humans. Because they were brave enough to approach, they got fed. The aggressive wolves who kept their distance ended up starving or just had a harder time finding food, meaning they left fewer offspring. Over generations, this created an unintentional, completely unengineered evolutionary pressure. The friendly wolves survived, they reproduced, and they passed that lower stress response right down to their puppies, nudging wolf behavior closer and closer to humans.
This leads us right into Section 3, the domestication syndrome and Dmitry Belyev's incredible experiment.
To really understand how this behavioral shift actually happened, our source material points to this totally covert Soviet experiment from the 1950s. It was run by a brilliant Russian geneticist named Dmitry Belyaev. Now, at the time, doing this kind of research in Soviet Russia was incredibly dangerous because genetics was officially considered a bourgeois pseudoscience. So Belyaev had to conduct his work under the cover of studying fox breeding for the fur industry. But what he was actually doing was a rigorous real-time test of evolution. He started selectively breeding silver foxes, and he selected for one trait, and literally one trait only: tameness. Every single generation, he tested the puppies for how they responded to humans, and he only bred the ones that showed the absolute least fear and aggression. That was his entire selection criteria, just friendliness.
The results of this experiment were absolutely explosive. Within just a few generations, and we're talking mere decades here, not millennia, the foxes didn't just become friendlier. They completely transformed physically. Without anyone prompting it, their ears became floppy, their tails started to curl up, their solid silver coats suddenly developed these spotted patches of white and brown. Their faces got rounder, their skulls shifted, and they even started seeking human eye contact and barking. And remember, Belyaev never selected for any of those physical traits, not one.
What I found so fascinating here is that Belyaev had accidentally stumbled onto something known today as domestication syndrome. It's this scientific realization that the genetic pathways for tameness and a low stress response are deeply linked to a whole suite of other physical and developmental traits. Basically, friendliness comes as a package deal with floppy ears and spotted coats. It's a 2-for-1 special. This proved to the scientific community that those ancient wolves hanging around human camps didn't actually need hundreds of thousands of years to change. They could have started showing those classic dog-like traits surprisingly fast.
All right, let's look at Section 4, rewiring the dog brain and the profound cognitive differences this caused.
As these wolves acted friendlier, humans actively began keeping them around as early alarm systems, which sparked this incredible coevolutionary partnership that literally rewired the dog brain. Seriously, look at the cognitive differences between a wild wolf and a modern dog. It is profound. If you point at an object, a domesticated puppy, even one with minimal human contact, will naturally look exactly where you are pointing. A highly socialized wolf pup simply won't get it. And even more amazing is eye contact. In wolf society, staring into another wolf's eyes, that is a direct dominance challenge. It means a fight is about to happen. But dogs evolved to actively seek out our gaze. And when they look into our eyes, both of our brains release oxytocin. That is the exact same chemical bonding hormone that is released between a human mother and her infant. So a carnivore that originally would have just eaten us has been biologically rewired to love us. That is wild.
And the physical rewiring gets even more specific, down to the actual muscles in their face. Dogs developed this highly unique facial muscle right above their eyebrows. It's called the levator anguli oculi medialis. Wolves simply do not have this muscle. It has one purpose and one purpose only. It allows dogs to make their faces look unbelievably sad, soft, and cute. It is quite literally the anatomical source of puppy dog eyes, and it perfectly triggers our innate human caregiving instincts.
When you really think about it, it's kind of hilarious. Over the course of 10,000 years, your dog's ancestors unknowingly evolved a spectacularly effective biological hack just to manipulate your emotions. You might sit there and think, you chose your dog, but actually, your dog's ancestors spent 10 millennia evolving specific facial muscles just to make you deeply, desperately want to take care of them.
This partnership deepened incredibly over time. Long after the initial domestication, we see something amazing happen around 10,000 years ago. Ancient human-dog burials. We actually have graves where humans were carefully arranged with a hand gently resting on a dog. Think about that. In a brutal, prehistoric world with a terrifyingly low life expectancy, ancient people were mourning these animals as true companions, not just tools. And that incredible journey takes us all the way through the 19th century directly into today, where we willingly spend our hard-earned money on things like $40 artisanal, grain-free, salmon-based pet food.
Which perfectly sets up Section 5, the breeding explosion and the rise of modern breeds.
Once that initial bond really solidified, humans basically grabbed the wheel of evolution. While early human breeding of dogs was entirely about utility, practical things like hunting, herding, and guarding, the Victorian era changed everything. We essentially dismantled the sleek, highly functional body of a wolf that had been honed by millions of years of nature, and we created wild, extreme variations. We transitioned dog breeding into this highly competitive sport focused on strict aesthetics. That is exactly how we went from ancient hunters to everything from the incredibly speedy greyhound to the bulldog. Which, let's be honest, is an animal basically shaped like a sad loaf of bread, yet somehow still finds the energy to have a huge personality.
And that intense focus leads us right to the position of the modern dog today. Our dogs sleep in our beds, they have their own Instagram accounts with thousands of followers. They are literally written into our wills, and they receive medical care that sometimes flat out rivals human standards. Neurologically speaking, the loss of a dog triggers genuine family grief in our brains. The comedic contrast here is just staggering. There are dogs alive right now with immeasurably better quality of life than most recorded humans in history, and yet they are perfectly content just finding a random crusty sock on the living room floor.
This brings us to our final part, Section 6, a mutual coevolution, and how we actually changed each other. We tend to think of domestication as this one-way street where humans are totally in charge, kind of like what we did with cows or pigs, but dogs are entirely different. Dogs were active participants in their own domestication. They approached us first, and we, in turn, adapted culturally and neurologically to them just as much as they adapted to us. In fact, there's a very serious scientific argument to be made here. Dogs helped create us. By providing early warnings against predators and by helping us track and hunt prey, dogs gave early human populations a massive survival advantage.
They may have genuinely been a significant factor in our successful expansion across the globe. Honestly, without dogs, the entire trajectory of human civilization could have been measurably different.
It is a 15,000-year partnership that has survived every fallen empire and outlasted every forgotten language. As the source material beautifully puts it, that happiness is ancient. So the next time your dog falls asleep on your feet or just completely loses its mind with joy because it heard your keys jingling in the door, take a second to remember that you are witnessing millennia of mutual evolution expressing itself right there in real time.
So I'm going to leave you with this final thought to ponder when you look at your own pet today. Considering they completely rewired their brains to read our gestures, developed completely unique facial muscles to manipulate our deepest caregiving instincts, and secured a super cushy spot on our beds eating gourmet salmon, who really domesticated who? Thanks for joining me on this explainer, and I really hope you look at your dog just a little bit differently today.